A study just came out from Adobe. On the Agentic shelf, you need 5 times more data than you've needed ever before. AI is an amplifier, but it amplifies the good and the bad. So if you have bad data, it's not going to make it any better. It's just going to make everything worse. And they're just tacking on AI, which isn't actually showing any results. I think the beauty of AI here is to completely rethink your processes. I think a lot of brands are air quote doing AI, but I don't think a lot of them are seeing ROI from that. A lot of brands are stuck in what I like to call pilot purgatory, where they're piloting all these different things and they're doing these test and learns, but it's like not going into the broader business. AI is not, or robots are not going to come into your office tomorrow and take your job, but the job you have today is not the job you will have tomorrow. The brands that I've seen that are really kind of future focused, they're more AI enabled, I think they have a couple of different things. One,
Hi everyone, this is Yurii from Dataforest, and it means that we have another amazing episode of our podcast, Empower the Data, where the business begins with data and AI leads the way. And today we're going to talk about the new domain that we didn't mention before in our podcast, and we didn't have the representative in this part of business. And I'm talking about the e-commerce today, and I'm talking about the digital shelving. And today we have amazing guests. Her name is Lauren Livak Gilbert. Yay! Give a big round of applause. Yeah, if I would have a lot of people around, they're definitely going to give me a bigger round of applause. Because Lauren, I saw you as a speaker. You're doing a really good job, and I'm really excited to have you as a guest today.
thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. Data is super important nowadays and always, actually.
Yeah, and today that's the exact question that I want to discuss with you, but I want to hear some insights from you. I want to learn a little bit more about your perspective and your vision of this question. How do you think the data impact the businesses like yours and the companies that you represent, that you're dealing with? And how do you think AI is going to impact them nowadays and in the near future? And that's not all the questions that we're going to go through, but before we're going to start, for those who doesn't know, Lauren is Executive Director in Digital Shelf Institute. Lauren, can you please tell me a little bit more about yourself, about your company, and of course, your position in your company?
Sure, definitely. So the Digital Shelf Institute is a community of brands, retailers, thought leaders in the e-commerce space. We're actually 11,000 members, which is really exciting. We just hit 11,000. So I really focus on building community, creating content, doing research, and helping brands in seat today figure out what's going on in this crazy world of commerce. And I come from the brand world. So I used to lead the digital shelf at Johnson & Johnson prior to my time here. And I really understand what it means to build out a digital shelf strategy. There's a lot of challenges moving larger organizations and changing things and creating processes. And so I spend a lot of my time figuring out what's coming next and what should brands be thinking about.
Okay, so that sounds great. It's going to be a good conversation. And just to give you a little bit more information about yourself and to our listeners, because I kind of went through your profile on LinkedIn and it says that you work across Fortune 100 companies, startups. I know that a lot of times people are not allowed to mention their names. However, can you tell me the kind of patterns that you might notice there in the businesses, and what is your experience in that area? What kind of insights you can share?
Sure. Yeah. So I work with a lot of CPG companies. So think personal care brands, food and bev, alcohol companies. And really, I spend a lot of time talking about things like organizational structures, like what is the correct org structure for the digital shelf? So should e-commerce sit in sales or marketing? We talk about things like how do you measure the digital shelf? How do you measure the agentic shelf? And even things like how am I creating the right job descriptions to set me up for success? How do I better partner with my retailer partners? When you think about mostly CPG companies, most of them have been around for a very long time. We're talking 100, 150, 200 years. And so most of them were built for in-store shopping. And over the past 30 years with e-commerce kind of coming about, they've changed their processes. They've become more digitally native, but it still takes time to really change both processes, ways of working, job descriptions, how people work cross-functionally to be able to support that. So I work with a lot of those companies to say, hey, how are you doing this today? How are other people doing it? How can we think about it in the future? And kind of what's coming next, especially in the agentic shelf world.
Okay, that sounds interesting. And from everything that you mentioned and that you just said, I can say that definitely data sit in the center of all these decisions. Are you agree about that? If you are, just tell me why. If not, I also want to hear your thoughts.
100%. I mean, data is the foundation of everything. There's a lot of buzz today around AI and the agentic shelf. And I always say to every single brand that I work with, if you do not have a single source of truth for your data, a product experience management platform that houses all of that clean, accurate information, then you shouldn't even be talking about AI, because data is the foundation of all of this. From the physical shelf to the digital shelf to the agentic shelf, brands now need to worry about all three of those, right? Because we now shop in store, we shop online on an Amazon or a Walmart or a Target. And now we also go to a ChatGPT or a Gemini and we ask about products. And from there, we find and purchase those products. So all of that is fueled by the content about your product, whether it is your description, your imagery, your product image, your enhanced content, your additional attributes. All of that is fueling every single one of those shelves. And if it's inaccurate, then you have no idea what you're buying. So data is the foundation for absolutely everything.
Yeah, totally agree about this statement. And may I ask you, what do you think the biggest challenge with data for this type of companies nowadays, where everybody's struggling?
Oh gosh, there's more than one challenge. But I would say
Give me all of them.
The first one is, where is it? I mean, when you think of a large organization, right, you probably have, I don't know, 100,000 people sometimes at these companies. Who owns the data? Where does it live? Is it in someone's Excel sheet on their computer, or is it in 3 different systems and nobody knows what the source of truth is? So I think the first one is like, where does the data live? And then from there, is it accurate? Like, has it been updated? And is it going to be updated as things change? Then who owns it? There can be multiple different owners of one kind of technology that houses all of this data. And are they involved in the conversation? Do they know about what's happening? So there's all these different pieces that come together, because when you think about a product, then that's kind of the space that I live in, right? So selling products online on an Amazon, on a Walmart, there's so many different elements of a product. If you are selling, let's say, a part for an appliance, the amount of specifications that you need the size, the dimensions, the weight. Does it fit with this model or this model? So that's super complicated. If you're selling a face wash, what kind of ingredients does it have? Like, when can you use it? Does it have clean ingredients? Is it gluten-free? Is it vegan? Like, there's so much data behind everything that you sell, and it can be super, super complex. And the challenge is that involves so many people across the organization. Supply chain, R&D, marketing, sales, the e-commerce team, IT. So you have people across the entire company who might be owning different pieces of data that you need to have in one place that you can then send to all of your retailer partners. So it is a big web that organizations need to sort through. And I think they have started to do that with the digital shelf because it's necessary. Amazon asks for like 600 attributes when you're setting up a product to actually sell on Amazon. So brands have been going through this, and then a study just came out from Adobe. On the agentic shelf, you need 5 times more data than you've needed ever before. That's a lot more data for brands to both find, know who owns, make sure it's a single source of truth, make sure it's accurate, and it's actually getting to the right place.
Man, I guess I can add one more.
Yeah, please.
On top of that, that's going to be the perfectly automated process to analyze the data. Because if, let's say, you're going to get all of this data and you will do the analysis manually, oh my God, you got to get nuts on that.
You can't. You just can't.
You physically can't. I mean,
No.
Yeah, before you will finish the first part of the document that you've got, that's already going to be like 2 years to finish that.
100%. But that's also, Yurii, that's why I think it's super exciting that AI is available to brands to use, because there was only so much you could do in a world without AI. You can't just add 20 more people to your team who are like sitting and crunching data and analyzing it. It will never be possible. So you can do so much more with AI than you've ever been able to do before, but it's still working on the same foundation. I like to say that AI is an amplifier, but it amplifies the good and the bad. So if you have bad data, it's not going to make it any better. It's just going to make everything worse, right? Because it's going to incorrect information. It's going to share it with a consumer. Then another LLM might pick it up, and then it just kind of spirals out of control. So AI isn't just going to fix a problem if you have not been focusing on your data, if you do not have a source of truth. Like, it is not the answer to all of your problems.
Yeah, 100%. I like the quote from one of our previous guests when he said that AI will make you worse but faster.
Yes,
And that's
I love
100%
that.
true.
100% true.
And I really like it. And I totally agree with him about that. And right now, if we're talking about AI, I know that a lot of processes are being automated before AI. And they were kind of working great, I would say. Maybe not great, but definitely good. And right now, when we got an AI on the market, where do you think the biggest impact happened?
Okay, so the way I kind of look at AI, especially in the commerce space, is it has both an internal and an external impact. And what I mean by that is externally, when you're thinking about like your consumer. So you and I going on Amazon and buying a product, like we're the consumer in this example. From an automation and an AI standpoint, as a brand, you can create content for more SKUs. You can create content at scale. You can create images at scale. You can do way more from a content perspective than you've ever been able to do before, which then impacts the consumer experience. So from an automation standpoint there, that's super impactful. Internally, it helps from an efficiency and a scale process as well. So when you think about the digital shelf, you have a new product, right? Like, let's say I have a water bottle in front of me. Let's say I'm selling a new water bottle, right? I've decided that that's the product I'm going to sell. From start to finish of a new product coming out, that can take months to get that set up, to create all the data, to create all the images, to understand all the claims, to work with supply chain and regulatory, and on and on and on and on. AI can help streamline that. Instead of having multiple different systems or using email or using an Excel sheet or going through like 6 different review systems, you can automate the process. But I think the challenge that a lot of brands are having is they're taking, to your point, the processes that they've had for the past, 10 years that were air quote semi-automated, and they're just tacking on AI, which isn't actually showing any results. I think the beauty of AI here is to completely rethink your processes, which is hard, right? Because you've been doing things a certain way for a certain amount of time, and I'm telling you to kind of like break that and start again. But that's where the real value from AI comes from. Instead of tacking it on to step like 1, 32, and 65 of your process, be like, hey, should we do this differently? Can we actually have 4 or 5 agents that are working with us and are doing things in tandem that make this process faster and easier and can check our work and scan our data and create our content? So it's a complicated question because there's so many different elements that kind of fit into it, but I see it as a huge enabler and basically like a supercharger for brands, but only if they completely reinvent and reimagine the way that they're doing work versus just tacking it on.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for sharing. And the quick question, you mentioned that AI can kind of speed up the process of creation, the content. And lately, I read a few topics about that. People are getting tired from this, let's say, plastic content that created by AI, and they want to have something that they can kind of feel that it's a handmade or something like that. What do you think about that?
That's a great point. I read an article about this the other day too, right? People are able to determine what is AI content versus what isn't. The way I look at it is, let's say I'm a beverage brand and I have 5,000 SKUs. In the past, I probably had a team of 5 and I could maybe create great content for 200 of them. Now you can create content for all 5,000 and you can have a human review and approve it. So I think there's levels of content creation that are acceptable, right? So if you're thinking like basic content, like what is the title of this image? How do you describe it? Like, here's our brand guidelines, write some bullets on the benefits of it. I think that's super impactful for a brand who's never been able to do that across their product set ever before, but with a human in the loop, right? I don't think there's a world today where a human is not in the loop in order for that to still be true to their brand story, to how they're trying to showcase all of this information and their product to their customers. So there's that piece of it. I think the image piece of it is a little bit more complicated. There's a lot of opportunity to use AI from an imagery standpoint, switching backgrounds, changing colors, creating seasonal content. I think the complexity comes in with humans, like creating AI generated humans.
Yeah,
And
but even this part is pretty good nowadays.
I mean, honestly, terrifyingly, it is. The one thing that stands out to me, and I don't know if you saw this, but Amazon just set up a new requirement for below the fold enhanced content and for any of the brand story content that you have to check a box if the content was AI generated or AI assisted. They have not communicated what they're going to do with that information yet, but I presume that eventually they will disclose that. And I do think that people will look at it. And especially as we move so far to one side that everything is AI generated, it might be more impactful if it isn't AI generated. So I think you just have to be really cautious. What fits in with your brand? What can help from a scale and efficiency standpoint? And what takes you away from the core messaging of what you're trying to do with your specific product, with your specific brand? And there's always a human in the loop.
Oh yeah, I 100% agree about that. That's always human in the loop. Right now, AI, it's a tool. It's still a tool. It is a great tool, but it's still something that needs to be controlled by human, and it needs to be checked by human. And actually, it's still learning from humans. I don't know, maybe at some point we're going to get in the loop when AI will start learning from AI, and that's going to create some new mistakes. But at this point,
that's AI slop, right? Like a lot of people talk about the fact that like AI slop is out there. And so the LLMs are then referencing that, and it's becoming this kind of terrible cycle of just more AI slop. I mean, I think we're very early on. Like, this is very early stages of AI. Like, everybody's figuring it out. Everybody's seeing what works. But I don't think the things that we know work are still going to work. Meaning, if you have an amazing product and people love it, it's going to be great for you, right? Because people are talking about it. They are giving ratings and reviews. They're talking about it positively on Reddit. So it goes back to the core of like, you need to create an incredible product that is solving a need for your consumer. And then also you need to remain core to your brand message and your brand voice. And that's actually something that I talk a lot about. I think that we need to get back to a world where brands are brands and they focus on telling their story and they focus on building brand. If you look at some of the classic brands that we all know, like an Apple, for example, they focus so much on their brand and how they message things, how they go to market, how they present both their ads, their products, how they do their packaging. Like, a lot of that is building brand, and that's super, super important. And that emotional connection and kind of building that kind of brand community is so, so impactful. And we need to kind of get back to that.
Oh, yeah. Tricky question.
All right, I'm ready.
About AI that can help you to kind of create a lot of content, and AI part that can help you to create and make much more deep analysis of all the data. And I know they're both very important for any type of e-commerce businesses. And if, let's say, you would have to choose one of those, Because like you have an option to use a little bit of those and a little bit of that, but just one. What would it be and why?
Ooh, that is a good question. I would choose. I think I would choose the analytics side of things
The boring
because
part.
I think. What was that?
The boring part.
Well, but I don't think it's boring. I mean, I think the challenge in commerce specifically is we have no shortage of data. We have so much data, but we don't have a lot of insights from that data. It's not really telling us something, it's not leading to the best next thing. And so for me, being able to analyze data at that scale that can help me as a brand make the best decision around where do I spend my next dollar? Where should I be prioritizing? Is super, super impactful to my business, where I might not have been able to ever consume that much data and look at trends across all of these different data sets. It doesn't mean that you have to use that recommendation. And I think that's a good distinction, right? I was talking to a brand the other day and they were saying that they used to spend like a month prepping their dashboards and their decks to share with their executive team. And now they've trained an agent on their data, on their brand voice, on like a lot of the decisions that they're making. And on a weekly basis, they can actually look at a dashboard and it takes in like real-time information about what's going on in their category, what's going on in the world. And it makes recommendations based on what it knows about the brand in terms of what they should do from a strategy perspective, meaning like, hey, maybe you should spend more dollars at Walmart, or like maybe you should shift some over here, or I'm seeing this trend. And they use that as a tool in their meetings with their executive team to decide on what to do next. And the AI actually recommended, they were like, hey, we think you should spend more dollars here on this specific retailer. And they decided not to do that because they had additional context that they were working on a program with another retailer that this would cannibalize. So it is an input and it helps you make these decisions, but it helps you feel very confident about those decisions and gives you a broader picture across multiple data sets that you might not have ever had before. So to me, in this world that we live in where profitability is challenging and everybody's focused on growth, I want to have a very, very clear picture of what is happening with my data across my retailers and across my brands and how I can make a better choice.
Okay. Thank you for the answer. And another question that I have, it's about the AI impact that you kind of notice, not just in your client companies, but in general market. I know that you kind of analyze the market, you watch the market, you know what's happening there, you kind of know the trends. And can you give me a best example, in your personal opinion, which company use AI the best way and they got really, really good result and kind of boosting their businesses by implementing that?
Yeah. I mean, my broad brushstroke answer before I kind of give an example is that I think a lot of brands are air quote doing AI, but I don't think a lot of them are seeing ROI from that. And I think a big challenge there is because they're not reimagining the way they're working, like I was talking about before. They're just kind of tacking it on, and it's not built into the broader strategy. I think a lot of brands are stuck in what I like to call pilot purgatory, where they're piloting all these different things and they're doing these test and learns, but it's like not going into the broader business. The brands that I've seen that are really kind of future focused, they're more AI enabled, I think they have a couple of different things. One, they have leadership support, and their leadership is demonstrating how they are also using AI and how it's a part of everything that they do and how they're thinking about it, and they're incorporating it into their meetings, their strategy sessions, their decision making. So that helps it kind of go throughout the entire organization as well. I also see organizations that have their own AI implemented being really impactful. So I've worked with some brands that have like their own agents that they've named, and they're their internal agent, and it's trained on their brands, it's trained on their claims, it's trained on all the campaigns that they're doing. And it's actually helping to break down silos across the organization, because let's say Yurii, you're in one function, you're sitting over in R&D, and then I'm sitting in marketing, and you're working on a project and I didn't really know about it, but I'm talking to our internal AI agent. I'm like, hey, I'm working on this thing. Like, Is there anybody else working on something similar? And they're like, hey, Yurii is, you should go talk to him. How would I have ever known that before? Right. So it's kind of bridging those gaps there.
Before we call this group chat.
Exactly. Well, kind of. I guess it's a smarter group chat, right? Who is actually connecting you and providing that additional information. And then I would say the other piece is the brands that have actually created either like a task force or a dedicated role for someone to be thinking about how AI is impacting the company has really helped to kind of move them forward. We've seen this happen in the e-commerce space in the past. So when e-commerce really kind of started, there was the center of excellence, or there was someone who was dedicated to e-commerce. And now we're starting to see those roles go back into the business, which makes sense because digital is a part of everything that we do. And I think we'll see the same thing with AI. You've seen chief intelligence officers or chief AI officers or answer engine optimization managers that are kind of popping up so that in their organization, they can build out the strategy, work with their cross-functional partners, and then eventually that will become a part of the broader business once we've kind of really figured it out and highlighted it. So those are kind of three things that I see that are helping the brands that are more AI enabled and more future focused really adapt to the industry.
Okay, if you already start talking about adapting the industry and all this kind of final results that we are trying to reach out. So basically, we are chasing the perfectness, and we do this in all part of the business, in content creation, in analytics, etc., etc., etc. Let's say we got the perfect platform. They're gonna do perfectly everything. So basically, you're gonna get access to the perfectly structured data, to the perfect content creation tool. Basically, you have everything AI based. What do you think will happen with companies like yours and with the companies like your clients? I mean, when everybody have absolutely the same tool and everybody's as absolutely equal, who's going to move further? Who's going to win and why?
Well, I think we're kind of in that world today, and I talk about this a lot. I mean, no matter if you're a big CPG company or you're a company that started in your garage, you have access to Gemini, ChatGPT, Claude, like insert LLM here, right? So the tools are like everything's kind of leveling the playing field. Everybody has access to the same tools. So in my opinion, the differentiation is the how. How are you making decisions? How are you working internally? Like, how are you actually executing? Because everybody can create AI content, can write descriptions and images, can use all of these tools to get there, especially in the larger organizations. It's how you're thinking more omni-channel across your business and having complete launched campaigns from start to finish, including retail media, e-commerce, social, across the board. So to me, that's the really big piece of the puzzle here. How you as an organization are structured, how you operate, how you can be agile and change when things are changing in the market, when there's different trends that are happening. It's how you actually execute that makes a difference.
Okay. So if make it very simple, you still think there's going to be a person on top of that who will make the right decision based on all the information that they have?
No, I think it's a more of a cross-functional kind of collaboration. So I guess the thing that I look at is in most organizations today, if you sit in a sales org or a marketing org or an IT org, like you're very focused on your like box of business, right? And you have goals and objectives and you try to meet those, and that's kind of your focus. I think we're shifting more towards a world where it's like a one company approach, where if someone does something in IT, it impacts the broader company. And we're looking at it as like one business moving forward as an omni-channel organization, not just, hey, I did this one thing, check the box and move on. It needs to be more of a shared goal, business owner mindset in order to move forward, because the lines are being blurred between channels, between the customer experience, the way that people are interacting with TV versus Amazon versus TikTok versus any of these other channels that people are using. So you can't just be stuck in a silo anymore. It's just not going to work. And if you look at some of the disruptor brands or some of the smaller brands that have come up really quickly, like a Liquid Death, they don't have silos in their organization, right? They have activated campaigns across all of their channels, and they're working internally, and they're having more of an omni-channel approach. So those smaller players are kind of like eating at the heels of the bigger companies right now. And the big challenge is it takes longer for the bigger companies to adapt to that change. So how are they going to work more cross-functionally, break down those silos, and be more omni-channel focused?
Okay, thank you for sharing. And probably the last question from my side, because we are running out of time. And yeah, that's definitely process going to be pretty much the same, but in the different levels, in the different companies. And right now we have examples when just only one person run the business in the small companies. But if we're talking about some big players on market, do you think, are we going to reach that point in some near future when AI will replace all the workers, all the employees, basically, when the system will do everything instead of them, and just going to be one person on top of this chain who's going to kind of make a decision, and the system will automate everything? I guess the answer is no.
I don't think so. But I'm not an AI doomsdayer. I mean, I think there's a lot of hype out there. I do think there is a world we're moving into of agentic transformation where there's a hybrid workforce. So like you, Yurii, might have 3 agents working for you. I, Lauren, might have 5 agents working for me. And so you have humans, agents, and technology all working together to get to your kind of final outcome. And that makes up your entire business. I think we're very, very, very far from a world where there's like one human and you have like 17 agents that are supporting you to do that. And honestly, I don't know if that's a world that we want, right? Like it takes away empathy, it takes away the human element, it takes away connection and community. And I think that takes away core elements of who we are as people. And it takes away the joy of shopping. Like we talk about this a lot when it comes to commerce. Like there's still some categories where like you want to go and you want to shop and you want to experience and you want to touch and feel things. And if you automate a lot of that, it takes those things away, and it takes away some of the core elements of who you are as a human. So I think the way I talk about it is AI is not, or robots are not going to come into your office tomorrow and take your job. But the job you have today is not the job you will have tomorrow. It will fundamentally change. Like that, I do believe. I do believe there's an opportunity for 80% of your job to be automated. And I think that 80% then becomes, how do you think more strategically? What are the outcomes that you're trying to drive? Like, what can you do differently with that time? Not, hey, like we don't need you anymore because it's automated. It's like, no, all of that work should have been automated. I shouldn't be looking at 20 Excel sheets and doing data analysis. I should be thinking about, how do I create more partnerships with my retailers or with different brands or with people inside my organization? So it will change things, but I don't think it's like we're living in a Wall-E world where everybody is like sitting in a chair, roaming around, and the robots are taking over.
Okay, so yeah, that's actually an interesting point, and I agree with you about that. And as I always say, that I don't think that AI will replace humans, but I think that people who know how to use AI definitely will replace those who don't.
Yes, I 100% agree with that. And there's a massive skill gap. I also think inside organizations where a lot of people have access to these tools but have not been trained on them, and everything is moving so quickly. And so there's always something new to learn. I mean, I struggle with that too, right? Like I'm sure you do too. We have to keep up on the news. We have to see what's going on. There's always something new. And so there's an education element that is so critical for companies, for individuals, to try and stay up to date on what you can use, what you can work with, how things are changing. And so addressing that skill gap is also really, really important for brands. And I think also ties back to the data piece that we kind of started out, and the whole purpose of your podcast, right? Like if you don't understand the context of your data, and you as a human who knows your brand and knows your company and knows your consumer isn't explaining why this one ingredient is so important and so impactful, then an AI won't have that context. So you need the human and AI connection together.
Yeah. And that's actually the great final of our podcast. And I really like that we started talking about the future, because that's already kind of traditional question in the end. What's going to be your statement for our listeners in the end of the podcast? What would you say if we already start talking about the future? Just give us something for the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a really, really hard industry to predict the future. The only thing that I will predict is that everything's going to change. I don't think it's going to change as quickly as we think it is, but I do think that things are going to change. And if companies can't get on board with that and they can't create the infrastructure, the operating model, the culture of change, and the comfort with change, then they're going to have a real problem moving forward.
Okay. That sounds very reasonable. And I would say again, I already said it, I don't know, like 10 times today, but I 100% agree with you.
Oh, amazing. We're on the same page. I love it.
Yeah, we're on the same page, definitely. Okay, Lauren, thank you so much for finding the time for this podcast in your schedule. I really appreciate it. We're going to launch it very soon. And it was a pleasure to talk to you. If you want to say something else to our guests, just go ahead.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Yurii. For anybody who's listening and is in the e-commerce or commerce space, check out the digitalshelfinstitute.org. We also have a podcast, Unpacking the Digital Shelf. So if you want to dive deep, also happy to connect.
Sounds great. So we're going to put all the links below this podcast so you guys kind of click and go and learn a little bit more about Lauren, about her company, and the things they do. Feel free to reach them out. I know that she's always happy to help. So for everybody, thank you guys for being with us. That was the Empower the Data. And that was a podcast where the business begins with data and AI leads the way. We're going to see you next time on the next week. And that's going to be another amazing guest in the studio. And Lauren, thank you one more time. Have a great day ahead. I know that's the early morning for you. So thank you for being up so early. And ciao for now.
Thanks, Yurii.